today and we're recording this amazing podcast for you guys. This last week, we went over, I personally went over yesterday to the first annual Cuban Sandwich Contest Festival. And let me tell you guys, it was amazing. Tons of food trucks. We need to do more Latin festivals here in Southwest Florida. Whoever is in charge of festivals, you guys need to bring more festivals, Latin festivals, because the food was on point. The music was amazing. It was a lot of fun. And we were just out there having fun. The weather was a little cold, but, you know, we have to deal with Mother Nature. Besides that, last week, I just worked, you know, and today we're here recording our podcast. We usually just have very laid back, chill guests, you know, but today we have super exciting because most of you guys know that I used to be 265 pounds and I lost 125 pounds it's been over 5 years. And I had the gastric sleeve surgery. And I know a lot of people come to me and ask me questions. And today we're going to have the opportunity to ask questions. Our guests today are actual doctors that performed this surgery. My co-host, wonderful and amazing, Enya Phoenix, she put this together for us. And I'm going to hand it over to her. Tell us about it.
Hey, everyone. It's your girl, Enya Phoenix. So my week was pretty insane. Working a 9 to 5 and then cramming the excitement of today's podcast. Getting everything prepared, set, ready, posting, just making sure that we are on point with this. This is something that has been a really long and life-changing journey that I have been on. So I am going to go ahead and introduce our special guest. We're going to introduce my doctor, Dr. Moses Shieh.
Yes.
And then we're also going to introduce the new up-and-coming doctor to Surgical Healing Arts Center, Dr. Mina, Saeed.
Right.
I said that right?
You got it.
I got it on the first try.
And just to clarify, he's not a new doctor. He's just new to Southwest Florida.
New to Southwest Florida.
Yes.
That's correct.
So I thought he was coming from Illinois.
Yeah, Chicago.
I was Chicago. We're going to be across the globe with Parlor Talk. And then he was like, I'm moving here. And I was like, okay, bet. We're going to switch the information.
He's going to become a Floridian.
That's right.
Oh. Good luck on that one. However, we are going to be doing something different this episode. Dr. Moses Shieh and Dr. Mina Saeed has brought some information about the gastric sleeve and the gastric bypass, as well as we're going to be sharing our story. We are going to be linking their QR codes to the website where you can find them, get your consultations, ask questions.
Look at before and after pictures.
Get to know the providers before you go in for your consultation. Dr. Moses Shieh was mine. He did my tummy tuck back in July. We did that.
Wow, yes, that's right.
Can you believe it's
time flies?
But I'm ready for another one. So I just got to save up the money.
And guys, just so you guys know, Nakisha's not here today because she is in a well-deserved vacation, but she sends you guys all her love. And in honor of her, I'm just going to say Shhmoney.
We are also going to be linking a promo code, Parlor Talk, for the QR codes as well. So whenever you hit them up, just let them know that Parlor Talk is the one who sent you guys.
Awesome.
So we're going to go ahead and give the floor to Dr. Shieh. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Give everybody some information on where you're at, what you do.
Yeah, great. Thank you, ladies, for having us here. It's honestly a pleasure. And I love how you both said this has been a journey, because we try to tell patients it's not a destination. It's not like poof, I'm there, right? And so I love that you guys remember that it's a journey, and it's actually a neat journey for us too as the clinicians. And Dr. probably Saeed we'll have some stories that you guys will tell us, patients that is, of how it changed their life in so many different ways. But sometimes we forget the simple things, such as tying their shoes. I've had patients tell me that. And so it's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and we just like to share what we do, and as well as how we can help others with this.
Nice. How about you, doctor? Can you tell us like how long you've been doing this practice?
Absolutely.
And what's bringing you to Southwest Florida?
So I, graduated fellowship in 2019, and what ultimately led me down this path is I'm a former patient. I had the lap band done many, many years ago, before the sleeve really became popular. And so, I was 330, 340 pounds, very unhealthy, and decided to, change my life through this journey. And it has truly really given me a second chance to live life, and also give patients the opportunity to do the same through bariatric surgery. So I connect with patients in that way, and it's really fulfilling to see, when patients get off their medications and completely change the course of their life through, one procedure and a lot of their own hard work and dedication.
Okay. Can you, and you guys can go back and forth, but can you guys explain exactly what a gastric sleeve surgery is, or the different types of surgeries, weight loss surgeries there are?
Well, so there's two actually that are popular, but like Dr. Shieh was talking about earlier, there's several others that are available to patients. The two mainstream ones that comprise probably 95% of all bariatric surgery are the sleeve gastrectomy and the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, or just the gastric bypass for short. The sleeve is a restrictive procedure, meaning we just take the stomach that looks like a football, we make it look like a banana, and patients eat less, right? But every calorie that you put in that sleeve, you will absorb. What's different about a bypass is that there's a restrictive portion. We make a little pouch that looks like an egg, and we also really kind of bypass a long segment of intestine, which keeps you from absorbing fat. So not every single calorie that you eat will be absorbed by the body, and obviously you have better weight loss and longer weight loss results. You decide which patient gets which surgery based on a lot of different factors, though. It's not one size fits all. You can't expect the same from the sleeve and a bypass, and there's a lot of other things that you consider when choosing, what to do. Ultimately, patient choice is the biggest factor. But we try to give them all the information. And, Dr. Shieh, you can speak on some of the other procedures that are available for patients, after sleeve, if they gain weight.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the good news is, just like yourselves, 80% of patients will keep their weight off for the rest of their life. Unfortunately, 20% is going to regain it back. And so we consider in our practice, you're a patient for life.
Okay.
And so we want to get you to a 5-year mark. And that 5-year mark will say, if you can keep that weight at 5 years, you're going to stay that way for the rest of your life. So our job is to not the first year, because the first year is the honeymoon period. Man, your honey can do no wrong, right? I mean, you can eat the wrong things and still lose weight, right? But 3 to 5 years later, it's that honey, man. That honey throws a sock on the ground or his underwear on the floor, be like, put that in the laundry bin, right? So in other words, you got to get back to the old.
That's true.
So one of the things that we can do for the sleeve patients that regains weight is convert them to a gastric bypass, which what Dr. Saeed said. It creates a small pouch, but also gives them the restriction of what we call a controlled malabsorption. So in other words, if you have a lot of intestines, let's say 30 feet of intestines, and all of a sudden we jumped and bypass 15 feet of it, that means you only have a segment of time to absorb that nutrient. So what it does is it helps to lose the weight by a smaller amount, but also helps not gain the weight by what you ingest, because you don't ingest it. So we were speaking earlier, there's a relatively new procedure out called the duodenal switch for the sleeve patients. What they did is the sleeve can be maintained for those that gain their weight, and so we can then do similar to a bypass, but not having to do the gastric portion, because that's maintain what they've already had from the gastric sleeve. So that's been a successful route as well. And it's all, the good news is for what we do, this is all what we call minimally invasive, so laparoscopic through a camera. So the days of cutting you open from stem to stern, that's out the door. So we want to try to minimize the recovery in the sense of getting you out the hospital sooner and back to full life again.
Well, I know me after my surgery, I showed you a picture. I was sightseeing 3 days later.
Yeah,
I was
that's
walking. I was out. I didn't feel pain. The only bad experience was that I couldn't eat. No, it's like you see food, but you can't eat it. Because that first month is liquids, and let me tell you, I smell a protein shake now and I gag.
Yeah. I can't do
I
it.
had so much protein shake before and after my surgery that now I tried the other day to make myself a protein shake, and the protein is actually good. Like it doesn't have like that aftertaste, but just knowing that is a protein shake, it was like, I can't.
It's the aftertaste for me.
I found a good one. I'll let you know about it, but yeah. What makes a patient a good candidate for either the gastric sleeve or the gastric bypass?
Go ahead, sir.
Most importantly, I'd like for them to be, and it's okay if it's not, but most importantly, first time I meet them, I want to know why they want to choose that procedure. If it's more like, well, that's what my friend got, okay, that's good, but I need to know what you know. And so that's why some of the things, for example, good 10 to 15% of sleeve patients, man, their acid reflux can get worse.
Yeah.
And so that's,
Mine.
yep. And so,
I didn't have that issue, thank goodness.
right. And so maybe a gastric bypass would be better for them.
Right.
Okay. Some patients with a gastric bypass, because it reroutes the bowels the intestines doesn't like sweets coming at it too fast.
I will have a huge problem with that.
So what ends up happening is it's called dumping syndrome.
The dumping
It's like
syndrome.
they have that sweet. They're like, man, it makes me want to throw up, makes me have diarrhea. And so then they're like, that really stops them. So we try to listen to them and saying, hey, what exactly have you tried before? What worked? What hasn't worked? If that makes any sense.
So is the weight of the patient determined for which surgery they're eligible for?
Yeah, the BMI.
Their BMI?
requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely plays a factor. I mean, they're both tools. One's a regular hammer and the other one's a sledgehammer.
Okay.
They'll get the job done, but one is going to do it more effectively and more consistently. And you would definitely want to tell your patient what the expectations of each procedure are so that they're on the same page. You're not typically going to lose the same as weight from a sleeve as a bypass, but you may not need to lose that much weight. And so it's about a discussion about what their goals are and what the pros and cons of each one are. But certainly the BMI does factor into it.
And then, like, what is the recovery time and process for each one? I mean, I know everyone is different, but like a general recovery time frame for each sleeve and bypass.
The sleeve is going to be a little faster recovery, typically not because of the incision sites or the surgery, because it's all done laparoscopic, so it's the same. But it's more in the essence of the sleeve is just one creation of the stomach. Like Dr. Saeed said, take a football, and now we made it into a banana, medium banana size, okay? Versus with the bypass, you made the stomach smaller, about the size of a golf ball, and then you have to reconnect the bowel. So there's more parts to the story. So if there's more parts to it, then there's more.
It's more
things.
invasive.
And so you have to watch out for those things post-operatively from as a clinician standpoint. So this relatively the same recovery, couple weeks, I would recommend. I've had many patients that have had get the gastric sleeve go back to work in 3 days.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, see,
and-
that's
and
a
you
little
were-
too much. I was walking and sightseeing, but I don't know about going to work.
Right.
Oh, that
I took I believe I took 4 weeks off from work. I took a whole month.
yeah.
I think a big part of it, I agree with. Oh, sorry. I agree with you. I say minimum of 2 weeks where you're not expected to do anything, but expect that for a month your energy levels are just not going to be there. Your body's consuming itself. You are taking in very little calories, so don't expect to be brimming with energy that first month. Then your body equilibrates and
Yep.
you get it back. But certainly, yeah, it does take some time to
Yeah,
get
with
back to zero.
with my journey, I had a very difficult journey. I was like, oh, told my job, I'll be back in 2 weeks. That's what the doctor told me. Yeah, my body did not handle it well. It went into complete shock. I lost taste. I lost everything. I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep nothing down. I went through it.
How long ago did you have yours?
We did the sleeve in 2021.
Okay.
And it was, for the first 2 months, it was horrible. I'm not gonna lie, it was horrible. I mean, I got dehydrated because I couldn't keep nothing down. But when I came out of it, and my body finally was like, okay, you got it.
Stop fighting.
I'm gonna stop fighting it.
Yeah.
We ain't going back. This is the best decision I've made.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I have no complaints. Like, I lost weight very gradually. I didn't lose weight super fast. I think I was losing 5 pounds a week. I waited 6 months and then I started going to the gym. I didn't lose hair. I did, a lot of people say, hair loss and a lot of stuff. I didn't lose any hair. I feel like I did have plastic surgery afterwards. Obviously, I mean, I was 265 pounds. So I had a tummy tuck, a breast lift with implants, and lipo of my back, and BBL. But I wanted to look natural. I didn't want to be I didn't want to shelf, overly exaggerated because I'm a short. That's what they call it. No. So my plastic surgeon was Dr. Miami, Dr. Michaels Haushauer, and he's known for shelves. Women go to him because they want to have a shelf. When I told him I want to look proportion, he's like, what does that mean? I said, 4'11". Like, I don't want to, I don't mind that people know that I had surgery. I just don't want to look like I had surgery.
You just want a ledge,
Yeah, I just want to look normal.
not a whole loaf.
I want to look like I work out all the time. But no, I thank God. I also think that we were talking about this earlier. It's also a mindset, right? I know I had my surgery outside of U.S. I know here in the United States, I don't know if you can probably speak more on this. It's a process. It's a longer process. You have to go through therapy, if I'm not mistaken, and there's different steps that you have to take. I didn't have to do all that. I went to the surgeon, had my surgery, but I knew, being a nurse, I mentally prepared myself. I said, okay, this is a life-changing, this is a tool that's going to help me change my life. Not, I'm going to have this surgery and all of a sudden I'm going to be a supermodel. That's not how it works. And I want to make sure that people understand that this is a tool. This is not you're going to have this surgery and you can eat everything you want and you can drink all you want. That's not how it works.
It's not
Oh
a
yeah,
magic
because
bullet.
I got sick.
I also think
there
in
was-
2021, it was still COVID.
There was foods that I ate that just,
Really?
there was some stuff that my stomach was just like, yeah, no. Even though if it was healthy, it was just like,
How about now when you eat those things?
I don't have issues now.
Right.
I found that after the tummy tuck, I'm able to consume more though. Like I'm able to about a cup to a cup and a half now. Before it was 4 ounces, 4 to 4.5 ounces at a time. And then when I had the tummy tuck, I was able to take in, and then I freaked out. I was like, I'm able to eat more, and I'm hungry. My stomach is growling. So I've had to be mindful of my portion controls because I'm not restricted, so to speak, anymore. I mean, I still get where I have a full limit, but it's not as bad.
See, I
as
stop
before.
myself before I get to that point.
Right.
So I eat rice. I don't eat it as much as I used to, but I eat like 3 spoons of rice. And I usually stop myself before I feel fully full because I eat every 2 to 3 hours. So I don't meal prep as much as I used to, but meal prepping helps a lot because that way you have, it's also like scheduling when you're at work, right?
Right.
So if you know what you have available, you're not going for the junk food and for all the stuff that's not good for you. So when I go to work, I'm there for 12 hours. So I pack my bag. I have nuts. I have yogurt. I have, a protein bar. I have different snacks. I have fruits. And at my job, they know every 2 to 3 hours, I'm gracing, I'm eating, I'm putting something in my mouth because I don't let myself get hungry. Now, one thing that I'm curious about, when I had my surgeon said that the part that they cut off, there's a hormone there that produces hunger, and that's cut off. Does that grow again?
It's not that it grows, it's just that it's not all removed.
Okay.
So that hormone is called ghrelin, and it's on the outer part of the stomach. So that most of that outer part is removed, but there's still some that's still there. And so what we try to tell patients, especially in that first year, is to look at the differences. Are you hungry or are you not full? There's a difference between the two, and just think about that for a little. The point behind that is because sometimes it's
bored. Boredom.
Yep. Sure. And it's a little bit of joy too, in the sense that that tastes good. There's joy in that. There's pleasure in it. So I want that one more pleasure, but unfortunately, guess what? It may be that pain that you don't want. And so one of the things we instruct our patients is portion size, as an example, nothing bigger than the size of your palm. Okay, and if you feel that it's that one last Thanksgiving bite, you're stretching that pouch.
Yeah.
And so try not to stretch it. That's the key thing. So
one comment that the surgeon did to my husband when we had our surgery, he said that his stomach was one of the biggest stomachs he's ever seen. Do you guys see that a lot? So many different sizes and stomachs?
yeah.
Yeah.
To some degree. I think a lot of it has to do with what you put in it too, not necessarily the volume, but you could just eat a lot of bad food and not necessarily have to consume a lot of it.
And like beer.
And beer, right? But to your point earlier, I think we've done surgery on patients if they have stomach cancer where you have to remove their whole stomach. Those patients wake up hungry, okay, and they have no stomach. So I want to point out a fact that your psychological relationship with food is something that we don't change surgically, but you will wake up thinking, okay, time to eat. Your brain wasn't watching the surgery happen. So you're going to be trying to just go back to what you were doing for 30, 40 years. And it's that part, that psychological, mental part, that takes the longest to adapt. The surgery took 1 hour, you woke up, and your entire gastrointestinal system is very different than anything you've experienced ever before. So for you to just figure it out immediately is unfair. And a lot of patients have exactly what you did, learning through experience, unfortunately, the rough way. but your brain eventually caught up with what's happening inside your body and says, okay, this is how fast I can eat. This is how much I have to chew. This is what I have to do in order to make it through. And I've been in the ER twice when I didn't follow my instructions to have my band deflated. So I know what it's like to just eat whatever you want. I think it was a Super Bowl Sunday, I remember specifically. I ate a baklava, just boom, one, and then I remembered, oh man, that's not going to be good. 24 hours later, I was in the ER and I had to have some fluid removed from the band.
Oh.
And so that part of your brain is the one that we don't change with surgery, and it takes a while for you ultimately to adapt. But when you do, that's success for life.
Is that like phantom pain too? Like, like people that have had their legs cut off, but then they wake up and they're like, I feel pain in my leg. Sort of like that, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't
It's
know.
just all in the mind.
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all in the mind.
like when I had mine and I was going through it for the 2 months, like my poor mom, she was my caretaker and she went through it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, nothing. I could keep nothing down. And I lost, I think it was like about 50 pounds within the first 2 months.
That's a lot.
Because of, I couldn't keep nothing down.
Yeah.
Couple of ER visits, so it was like at work and I had to go back. I was gone for 4 weeks and I'm like I have to go back. Like I'm not physically ready, but we're going to go back. And we lived out in Lehigh and I worked off a Boy Scout close to you guys. And I remember driving to and from work, coming home, I would stop halfway, take a nap.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
And then wake up and then drive the rest because my body was just so exhausted. And then it was like, I think the last round that my body was like, okay, we're good to go now. One last hospital visit for almost a week. And then I bounced back, was able to eat, keep stuff down. And then it's been an easy breeze.
Yeah.
Tummy tuck was an easy breeze. The second part of the tummy tuck was an easy breeze, thank goodness, because the initial one was and I was like, my sister had this and she didn't have no complications at all.
Yeah.
She had the
Gastric sleeve
as well. Okay. And that's a very good point too. Everybody's journey is different.
Yes.
And everybody's
Absolutely.
pain tolerance is different. Everybody's body is different.
100%.
The whole psyche that he was talking about, because my husband and I, we had the surgery at the same time,
Yep.
same day,
Same person.
2 completely different results.
Yeah.
I refused. Like I said, once I lost the first 50 pounds and I felt so good, I was like, oh, I'm never going back.
Right.
And I think that's the way it was with like the tummy tuck part, because I went through hell the first round. I was like, I'm not going through this again. And by the time I had moved out of the house and was living, with my boyfriend, I was like, I don't care what we're doing. I'm not going back in this state. I refuse to let my body go through this again. So I think it was like, as soon as I got cleared for light stuff, it was like, let me do this, don't touch it because I need to do it.
Right.
And I was back to work within 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
So, doctor, let me ask you, because she says she's going to do another one. So I waited till I reached my gold weight before I had plastic surgery, right? And in the meantime, I was just, working out and all that. Do you recommend to have different surgeries to remove skin, or do you recommend for somebody to finish losing weight to then do the
Yeah, that's a
surgeries?
great question, and the timing. So just like we said, it's 2 different people, maybe the same surgeries, different scenarios, and so sometimes it's medically necessary in the sense that we have patients that flabby skin, it really hinders their exercise.
Yes.
And it's flopping all, and it's difficult for them. So sometimes it would be ideal if we lived in an ideal world all the time to say, yes, lose all the weight that you can. And so sometimes we have to do what we call a functional abdominoplasty or tummy tuck, so where it may not be as the flat, but at least gets you with this excess skin, because I've got many great ladies that have lost a lot of weight, but they're like, but I still can't get into
clothes.
My legs can fit, but I've
Right.
got this flabby
Yes.
abdominal, so so in that sense, we have to try to find a fine balance. Ideally, if we could give you an idea, it'd be about a year. Would be ideal. Would be the soonest that we want.
A year after the gastric
Yeah.
sleeve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
I know, Ashley, you had some questions that some people
Yeah,
wrote to
I've
you.
been sneaking
Oh,
them
okay.
in.
Okay.
Smart girl.
I've just been sneaking
One
them in.
that's
Tons of
very,
questions.
very something that I want to bring up is body dysmorphia.
Oh, yep. I had
That was the
on
next
there.
one. For me, it was the first time I went out shopping, like after I lose like the first 50 pounds. And I went out shopping. I'm like, I went to the rack and I still went and I grabbed the size 18, 20. I still grabbed an XXL, and then I went to the dressing room and I tried it on. It was big and I was like, it was a shock. And then I was like, wait a minute, why am I shocked? I know I lost weight. But can you describe what body dysmorphia is for people that don't know what it is, and how can that be treated besides obviously, counseling and all that, but what is body dysmorphia?
Sure. It's a spectrum. It's not just like one specific thing and say, oh, that's the diagnosis. Because some it could be as similar as like you just figure it out. Hey, I don't need to get an XS large at that moment. Others can't figure it out, and it's literally their friends telling them, enough. You don't need to be, having this other. So, but it's whether it's trauma of being overweight for so many years, and sometimes the trauma, kids can be mean, adults can be mean, and that sticks with you. And so what we try to tell patients is that, are you doing this because it's functional or are you looking to substitute something that you still haven't got from the weight loss? Does that make sense?
It does.
And so what ends up happening is that they see an image or a perception on TikTok or on social media and thinking, that is the image I need to make sure I feel better about myself. When
But
they
it doesn't work like that.
bingo, because you're right, it doesn't work like that. So we have to really counsel our patients to not look into, because sometimes they can't see it. Because they're so busy saying, okay, this is my next step, this is my next step. And so we're able to help counsel some of these patients with that, right? Now, of course, they don't like to hear it sometimes, but sometimes it helps for them to realize what this is. And so that's a very good point that you brought up.
Does your practice offer also the mental health part of it? Like, is there a psychologist, psychiatrist, or counselor that talks to the patients?
Right, and so we have a group of social work people as well, because the important thing is that you brought up, and Dr. Saeed is going to probably agree with me, is that this is like no diet and exercise program you've ever had in your life, because you get the reward first. That's the weight loss.
Yep.
So if you don't change this, I don't say change, I say that's a bad word. If you don't adopt a better lifestyle than you have now, so you got to make that transition. And I'm very happy that you two ladies have mentioned that you've made these transitions, because if you don't, that's the key thing. And so that's where these counselors and therapists really help with that, because I always say, and the phrase of, if your friend is food, I'm going to steal your best friend. How do you gonna feel about that?
Yeah. So my biggest thing was, so I was I am the cook of the family, right? And every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every birthday was, I would cook, and all the parties were at my house. And then I started getting resentful because I was cooking all this food, but I couldn't eat it. So I was like, you know what?
Or
F
going
that.
out
You
to
do
eat.
it at your house. And now I'm like the cheapest date ever.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
and then we go out and it's like, oh, can I buy you a drink? And I'm like, no, I have to choose. I either eat or drink, you know? It depends on how long we're going to be here. Are we going to be here for an hour? Because if we're going to be here for an hour, then I'd rather eat my protein first and then wait 30 minutes and then I'll have a drink. But I rather do that than be the way that I was before.
And then I think I've found since having the surgery and going through this process, I don't eat to enjoy anymore.
That part.
Yeah.
I eat.
Because you have to.
I eat just to eat. So it's just like, oh, well, what do you want for dinner?
It
I
doesn't
don't
really
care.
matter.
Right.
Pick what you want because I'm just eating because I know it's just going to be a small portion and I'm done.
I'm glad you said that. You know how many arguments I've gotten with my husband?
I'm here too. So what? Okay.
This is the thing. Okay, what you guys need to understand is this, right? Because this is a big argument with my husband. What do you want to eat? Whatever you want, honey. No, tell me what you want. It really doesn't matter because at the end, with all my family, you guys I tell them, you pick because whatever I eat, it doesn't matter. I mean,
I will find something that I can
I
have.
bet you I can find you put any menu and I will find something because it's usually an appetizer or half of an appetizer or whatever you order, I'll take 3 bites out of it and I'll be okay.
That's what we assume. It's almost going back to what he was talking about beforehand that y'all don't, you have to, they don't change y'all's mind. They don't do surgery on your mind. It also affects us too because we're used to the interaction. So I feel bad if I'm picking all the spots.
I cook and I assume that she's not going to eat, and now I feel bad because it's not enough for him. You know what I mean? Like, so like she'll eat double.
Like so yeah, this is my roommate as well. So.
She'll eat double sometimes, and I'm like, what? And she'll be like, it was good.
I'd be like, I wasn't.
Oh,
full.
he's putting you
Like, I'm
out
sorry.
there. Okay. See, with me that doesn't happen. I literally I serve myself 4 bites of whatever, and I always end up leaving a bite.
What if it's good?
It doesn't matter.
See,
Mentally, it doesn't. Listen, I'm telling you, I can cook. I can cook. So when I cook my own food, you don't think I'd be wanting to pour my, how I used to eat before, but I can't. In my mind, it's that mental, or it's gone already. Like I will never, and I always leave food on the plate, even if it's a little bit, but I always leave some. I never get to the point where I'm super full.
Right.
I never want to get there.
Well, and then there's points where I'll just look at the last 2-3 bites. I'm like,
I don't want to waste food.
I could finish that, and then I go to put it in my mouth, and I'm like,
no, I can't.
because then it's like an instant don't you do that? Don't you do that? And
there's no doubt. There's a big cultural thing too about
Yes.
finishing everything on your plate, and there's starving kids in Africa that need to, you need to eat.
Yep.
So, also, I don't know about you guys, but if you finished your plate at someone's house, that means you are starving and you need a second, and so you're getting seconds, and you need to eat that, or else it's disrespectful. And so there's a social and cultural relationship with food that is going to change for anyone that's going to undergo bariatric surgery, because it has to change. But like you said, at the end of the day, you give up small things here or there so that you can have the big thing, which is your life back and your health back.
I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, when it comes to self-esteem, it might sound a little vain on my part, but I've always had high self-esteem. I grew up in a family where, we always told each other, oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so beautiful. There's a lot of females in my family, so we always build each other up. Not my cousins, we always fought, but my aunts, and I was the second girl to be born in my family, so tons of pictures and pose, and Sundays we will get together, and the aunts will moms and aunts will cook, the kids will dance, and it was a great in my earlier childhood, like really good self-esteem, right? So even when I was 265, you couldn't tell me nothing. I loved myself. But I can tell you, and I really thought that, oh, I don't care how I look. But I did. I did, because now I look at myself and I'm like, I wouldn't go back. Why would I? And that tying your shoe thing that you said earlier, for me, it was how expensive females' bras were when I was bigger.
Yep.
I used to pay between $60 and $80 for a bra.
Yep.
Wow.
And I used to spend $150 for a semi-cute bathing suit.
Yep.
Just so I wouldn't look like I was a grandma, but I didn't want to look like a grandma.
Or where.
So the
or
picture that I send you.
Certain stores would only
Yes.
carry your size.
Yes.
As a bigger girl.
Yes. So for me, just that alone, I will never go back to that size.
For me, I was at Six Flags. You guys have
Yes.
those out here?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was at my heaviest, and I think I couldn't fit in a ride.
One of the things that go down.
And
Yep.
that was it for me. And that one tore me up. So that's when I, decided to do something about it.
See,
I remember waiting.
Yeah, mine wasn't like that.
I remember 2 hours waiting for the Harry Potter at Universal, and my boobs were so big that the thing wouldn't click.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how embarrassing it was to get back down and after waiting for 2 hours?
Exactly.
I don't think I've been back to Universal since.
Yeah, my decision wasn't made on an embarrassment moment. I think my decision was finally a light bulb in my head. I was asthmatic growing up, severely asthmatic as a child. And it was just like, over the times, I had pretty good self-esteem. I hated to go shopping. My family, it was on the heavier side. So I kind of was just like,
We're big boned it.
yeah,
Right.
it's,
That's how we
but
build.
it was just like, gradually, it was just like, it's time. I'm almost, 30 something when I had the surgery. I was like, it's time for a change.
Yeah.
My sister had it, and I made her the guinea pig.
Let me see how you do it.
I was like, she said that she was going to start the process. She was going to do it. I was like, I'm going to see how you do, and then I'll jump into this, and then I'll do it. And she came out. She started having the success. And then I was like, okay, we're going to do this. Now, the process was extremely long for the U.S.
That's what
part of it.
That was my next question. So, beginning to day of surgery, what is the process?
I had to wait 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a 6 months process.
Before it used to be a year, wasn't it?
Certain insurances are going back to a year. So
Okay.
because the silly thing is that they want this thing called weight management visits once a month for 6 consecutive months. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't make that rule up. Your insurance did. But I hate to say it, but you could practically teach the class because it's not something you don't know already done multiple times.
And you've tried, yeah.
Read labels, protein, calories, all those things, exercise. It's not like you didn't know these things. So what we try to do is for our patients, knowing that they have to go through that, at least get them ready for the sleeve or the bypass and what are going to be the triggers that regains weight, right? And so the no-nos and what are you going to have to give up?
Can you still do the surgery if you have other issues?
Yeah. Yes.
If you have a hernia.
Yeah, I had a hiatal hernia and I got it repaired right the same time as surgery.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, those are the things that really will help the patients out. But unfortunately, good or bad, when someone pays out of pocket, meaning have to pay out of pocket, then there's less of those classes, if that makes any sense.
What is the out-of-pocket cost if insurance doesn't cover it? First of all, what would qualify insurance to pay? Like, do you have to have diabetes or anything like that in order to for insurance to cover
Now
it?
there's two requirements, so two pathways. One is if your BMI is greater than 40 or greater, so that's typically 100 pounds overweight.
Okay.
Or your BMI is 35, a little bit, so it's about 75 pounds overweight, but you have issues like sleep apnea or diabetes or high blood pressure. So those things, fatty liver, GERD, and so all those things then put you as a
higher risk.
yeah.
And
that qualifies. you.
Yeah.
that
Right.
qualifies
It
for
qualifies.
insurance purposes.
Yeah,
Correct.
because I know, like, when I started the process, because of my insurance, I had to do nutritionist for 6 months. I had to see a psychiatrist to get cleared. Because I have the asthma, I had to have a pulmonary clearance. And then
I had to get cardiology clearance.
I didn't have cardiology.
But see, I didn't have any heart problems, but just for surgery in general, like the surgeon that I
Yeah.
used overseas,
Requested
he
it.
requested a cardiology
I'll
clearance.
say this: I'm a big fan of the 6 months. Actually,
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's why. Number one, it shows commitment. I can't tell you how many people can't make it through 6 months of visits once a month. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to take this seriously. So it weeds people out who aren't going to take this seriously.
And I was going to say, we also now do it via televisit.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
you don't even have to
Televisit's
go to the
okay.
office.
Yeah, exactly. But if you can't stay committed to this 6 months when we're just asking you to check in and not even lose weight, I personally don't require them to lose a ton of weight.
Okay.
But what I want to see is you demonstrate the understanding that everything we just talked about, it's not a magic pill. There's expectations on your end to have success. And that's the biggest thing. And then the mental and psychological things, I want them to be prepared for that as much as possible. Those are the big things for me for 6 months. Because again, if you did come to have surgery, you just paid cash, you walked out of there a day later having no idea what to expect.
It's a shock.
It's a shock.
It's
Yeah.
a shock.
And so I couldn't expect anyone to really fly with no help and no assistance. So I think it's important for them to have some sort of program, maybe not have to be 6 months, but some leading up to that
Accountability.
Yeah,
I mean, I still
exactly.
think that even the 6 months, even though I went
Nothing
through
can
this
prepare you.
6 month process, I had no idea
Yeah,
what I was
it
getting
won't prepare
myself
you.
into.
But at least it gives you, it's like he said, is the commitment.
Yeah.
I think, so for me, not having had to go through all that, and the difference between me and my husband, he could have definitely benefited from the psychological part of it. For me, it was easier to make that switch. One, because I'm a nurse. And so I understood more of the medical side of it. Two, I'm a woman. So I think as a woman, you take more, it's harder, like your physical, your appearance, our hair, our nails. For men, some men don't really care what they look like, whether, they have a
Yeah.
big belly or not. I think women, we tend to care more about our appearance than men do.
And I think in this process, my body dysmorphia didn't kick in until recently, until after the tummy tuck. Because I don't see a full completed journey. So I still see, because of the loose skin on the arms and the loose skin on the thighs and, around the buttocks area, I still see it. So it still gives me that feeling as being the 247 pounds that I was at. I mean, I was starting process, I was at 270. And then when I got into it, I was like, I'm going to lose some weight. So I know that I accomplished something before the surgery. So that anybody who was like out in the area is like, oh, you just you it was an easy process for you.
That is the comment that I dislike the most. When somebody, oh, that's
You
the
took
easy
the
route.
easy route.
Let me tell you guys, there is
There's
nothing
nothing
easy
easy
about a gastric sleeve surgery at all. Like you said, I had a very bad heartburn prior to. I thought it was bad. Now I'm on Prilosec. Twice a day, 400 milligrams, and it's like the heartburn is ridiculous. No matter what I eat, even when I don't eat spicy food, I don't eat I try to eat clean, but it doesn't matter.
You still have that?
I still have very bad heartburn.
There's a quick fix now.
What's the quick fix?
We were just talking about a new device called Lynx that for a gastric sleeve patient, because it used to be to treat acid reflux from the sleeve, you had to convert to a bypass.
Yes.
Right? So now what we do is we put a magnetic Lynx device, kind of like a ring that opens and closes. So you just put it around the bottom of the esophagus. So food comes in, but acid doesn't come back out.
Oh, I'm gonna have to hit you up
Because
let me tell you,
I've had many patients that can't sleep.
I
flat.
pop
Yeah.
Tums like Tic Tacs.
Yeah.
And that's something real that everyone should know. That's not,
Yes.
thinking about a sleeve. I tell everybody 1 in 5 patients may end up on medications or need something in the future. So if you have reflux already, I sway people, against it, because we can cure it with gastric bypass. So it's kind of, you get a 2-for-1. You get a cure for reflux, which is the bypass, and the most durable of the bariatric procedure.
I was always scared of the bypass because of the absorption of vitamins, because when I did my research, it was just horror stories, hair falling out.
Oh,
and
I had hair
all
falling
of
out with the
this.
sleeve.
So it was a more drastic and a more dramatic weight loss
Right.
with the bypass.
And we know much more, so probably in the sense that we have patients that just even with the sleeve patients, we still supplement them because you just don't eat as much. So
Yes.
you don't get, that's the key thing, is just know for the bypass patients that they need to constantly be aware that they need to be supplemented. Whereas a sleeve, you're still, Dr. Saeed said something good too, you're still going to absorb what you eat. With the bypass, the problem is you don't always absorb what you eat. And so especially specific nutrients like iron and calcium and so things like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you tell me, do you guys know, what the long-term effects of, getting the sleeve or the bypass is? If there's any long-term
Complications?
side effects from having it?
I can
What
tell
will be
you-
the negative of
The
surgeries.
negative.
Well, definitely the sleeve. We just talked about reflux.
acid reflux?
Yeah, that's the one I think potentially life-changing thing that can happen after a sleeve. Other than that, we don't really see much other than the sleeve dilating and then having to do something else because of weight regain. Gastric bypass, because we're operating in 2 different areas, on your stomach and on your small bowel, you could have the complication of an obstruction, a blockage. And that can actually happen anytime someone's operating on your intestine. So it's not unique to bariatric surgery. Patients who smoke or take ibuprofen or NSAIDs like, Advil or Motrin or any of that are at increased risk for an ulcer.
Okay.
And, they're already at increased risk for an ulcer without the gastric bypass, but that risk is probably 10 times as high. And so you got to quit smoking, and you got to be not dependent on things like NSAIDs to have the gastric bypass safely. So, again, those are the sort of the factors and things to watch out for. What else can happen? Leak rates are less than 1% across the country. That used to be something 10 or 15 years ago that was very feared, a leak. We're operating on something that is completely waterproof, and then we're messing around with it. So if a leak happens anywhere, it's not a great thing, but the percentages now are less than 1% across the country. And a lot of people ask also, is it safe? Yeah, the mortality rate for bariatric surgery is the same as a hysterectomy or a knee replacement or many other commonly performed procedures nowadays. So it's far less riskier to stay obese than to undergo surgery. I tell patients that every day. We're talking about fractions of percentages, 1% or less. The risk of you not doing anything,
It's worse.
way worse.
Of course.
And then I know, like, when I was going through the process, like, there were so much, like, restrictions or things that I had to change in preparation. Cutting out, like, the carbonated drinks, stop smoking. Like, is the smoke...
Enya, you used to smoke?
No.
Oh, okay.
But people do smoke.
Yeah,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, is it just where they have to stop smoking cigarettes, or is it where they have to stop smoking cigarettes and weed, or, you know, is it...
And if you, so you have to stop smoking, period, or is it before the surgery? I mean, it's always good to stop smoking, period.
Because here's my answer.
Health-wise.
I mean, if you're doing this, if you're gonna undergo surgery, general anesthesia and surgery for your health, and then you continue smoking, you're missing the ball here. You're not really getting the
Yeah, like we
point.
said at the beginning, it's a life change.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, reset of changing a lifestyle.
Right.
So if you were smoking your whole life and eating fried chicken with Big Mac and cheese and collard greens and stuff,
And if you
Right.
continue to do that after surgery, believe you will be right back where you were. We don't
Yes.
install a special computer that rejects the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wish we did. But yeah, to answer your question, I tell people you have to quit smoking before, but don't start after. You're
Yeah.
going to do yourself a disfavor, especially in bypass. You're going to cause yourself an ulcer, and it's
That's right.
not a fun thing to have at all.
And then another question, transfer addiction.
I'm sorry.
Transfer addiction. So when...
I've never heard of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I had to stop drinking alcohol, not that I was a big alcohol drinker, but after, I think it was like after 18 months of being without it, you know, I went and I was like, okay, can I start like introducing some social drinking? And I was advised to be careful because of transfer addiction. And then after hearing that from the office, I'm part of, you know, some of the bariatric groups on Facebook, and I follow some people who has it, and they've said they've shared their stories where they've became an alcoholic.
Really?
So, can you give us some information on that?
It's certainly the same. Sorry to stick
No,
with that.
no.
It's certainly the same addiction center in the brain that responds to food as a pleasure center and the addiction that comes from that. That's the same exact center that's worked on from alcohol or gambling or risky behavior.
Oh
or
yeah,
sugar.
and I was advised that too.
And
Could
there's
transfer
been-
to sex
Exactly.
addiction.
At the end of the day, there's only one little tiny area of your brain that is responsible for all those addictive, pleasurable behaviors. And unfortunately, sex and sugar and adrenaline rushes and anything else ultimately latch onto that or affect that area of the brain. And so I think there's recent studies that showed functional MRI studies which show which part of the brain is active, and patients who were eating Oreos had the same area of their brain light up as patients who were doing cocaine or meth or anything
Wow.
else. It didn't look any different to the brain. So food addiction is real, and so I think that patients who are susceptible to that addiction need to address that both preoperatively and postoperatively, because that's never going to go away by us rerouting your intestine.
Wow, I learned something new today. I didn't know.
Yeah, I came home and I was like, just sitting there, sucking in the information. because I was like, oh, dang. Like, so if I start taking, casual drinks, then is it going to turn into an addiction? So then it's just like, I monitor myself now, of how much I take in, or if I take in any at all, because it's, now that I'm aware of it, it's now a subconscious
decision.
Yeah. Like, do I go out and have a drink and enjoy having a drink because I don't drink a lot? And then it's just like,
So for me, I noticed when I did have my first drink, I don't know how long I waited, but one drink.
I was a lightweight.
One drink, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, whoa, the room is spinning.
Yeah.
And I had one drink, and it was a rum and Coke. It was at a bar, so, they don't really make it strong. And I was like, I'm a very cheap date. Like, it's benefit that all I need is one drink. But is that because of the absorption of the size of the stomach?
Yeah, exactly right. What you just said. So with the sleeve, just think of the stomach used to be like a big vase, so it can store things. It's when it hits into the small intestines that goes right to the bloodstream. So just imagine, how when you're hungry and you have a glass of wine, it hits you. You're a cheap date.
Right.
Same thing with so. One thing with the transfer addiction, we try to tell patients before the surgery, find a hobby. Find something you enjoyed and get back to it, or something new. People are like, I couldn't ever kayak when I was 300 pounds. Well, find something new that you're going to want to do because you want to have that addiction, that healthy
a positive one.
Right? Because you're active, you're going out and doing things, right? Because you're going to leave food behind because it doesn't taste the same sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So,
like I told you earlier, now I eat. So I used to live to eat. Now I eat to live.
right.
So I'm very careful with, don't get me wrong. There's times where I'm very busy and I pick the lesser of the evils. Like I'll do Chick-fil-A and I'll do like the grilled chicken or whatever. But I will still drink, a soda here and there. My drink of choice is rum and Coke. So how can you have the rum without the Coke?
I can't do carbonated anymore.
Really?
At all. Like, as soon as, I think it was like maybe almost a year after having it, I had a little sip. And I tasted the carbonation right away. I was like, I can't. It's disgusting. I can't. We had a question come in. Why do you have to do the liquid diet before surgery?
That's a fantastic question.
Well, anatomically, your liver actually covers your stomach. When a majority of patients that are obese, they have what we call fatty liver. So we want to shrink that liver. So by going on a liquid diet, it's basically a sugar-free liquid diet. It shrinks that liver, and then now the stomach is right there. It's like I tell patients, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You make it easy on me, I'm going to make it easy on you. So does that make sense? In other words, I can see the stomach, the transection of it, the blood supply. It's just an easier surgery. That means less time in the OR, less anesthesia, less side effects. You're up walking, moving, and faster. And so if we can optimize all those things ahead of time, it makes a big difference.
So it's not really to lose weight, it's to help that the fatty liver get smaller.
Yeah.
And then the BMI, if I remember correctly, when I was going through my process, the BMI plays a part in how long you have to do the liquid diet.
Right. In our practice, if it's greater than 50 of your BMI, you get 2 weeks of liquid diet.
Bigger liver.
Yeah. So if you're under 50, then it's just 1 week. So.
And I'm telling you, that week was a very long week.
I actually did it for 2 weeks prior to my surgery.
It was very
Good for
long.
you.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't make it the full 2
I was
weeks.
determined.
Yeah.
I was determined
Really?
before, and I was determined afterwards.
Yeah.
I think having this surgery is something that people do when you reach a point, right? You reach a point where you're like, because I did try to work out, but working out was very hard on me. Like, you know how people say, oh, you know, when you work out, you're sore for the first month. I was always sore. In that, like, it was painful. It was physically painful to work out. It wasn't until I lost the first 50 pounds that I went to the gym, and I was sore for a good month. But then the more I did it, I think that was the transfer addiction was working out. I was working out 4 days a week.
Oh yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what I can do with my body prior to plastic surgery. I wanted to see. I knew I was going to need plastic surgery. Obviously, I mean, I forget the number size, but I think I was an F size bra, which is ridiculous.
That's what I was.
But when I started working out,
Right.
it was like, it just made me feel good. So I guess that was my transfer addiction. I need to get back to that addiction.
Yeah, I think once I had the surgery and then I was getting into the stage of where I was considering the loose skin removal, it got to be like where I was whether I was working out, whether I was at work, because I work at a sit down job, getting into the car because of how much weight that I lost and the amount of loose skin that I had. I mean, you removed almost 11 pounds of just
Wow.
loose skin for me. I would have to, as soon after I sat down, literally go into my pants and pull it up because it was hurting, because I was sitting
On top of your own skin.
on the loose skin. And it was like, at this point, I was like, this is no longer a want.
A need.
This is a need. So then it was like, body dysmorphia kicked in, you know, because it was like, I lost all the weight.
But you're still feeling.
You still feel big.
Yeah.
Even till this day, like my stomach's small, tiny, but then you see the legs and the arms, and it's just like, I make fun of myself to kind of lighten myself up, because now I'm like I know this is a journey. I know this is a process, but now it's like, I know we're getting there, but it's still
It's
is-
hard. The
it's
weight.
hard.
The weight.
Even the thighs isn't it's getting to a need at this point now.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Is that something that insurance
insurance
pays for?
will not cover it.
No.
Yeah, if anything, they'll cover two things. That usually the abdomen, and we need to show and document that there's rashes underneath, and sometimes the breast, because it's not necessarily what we call a breast reduction, but it's more of a breast lift, because underneath the skin fold of the breast can get really irritated.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I
so-
suffer from boils.
Yeah.
Pretty much my whole life as I was bigger. So yeah, I mean, I had to go to a dermatologist to get like, hey, this is needed
Yes.
for my tummy tuck for insurance purposes. But it's majority of the insurance now call it cosmetic.
What is your professional opinion on people that go out of the country for surgeries like this?
You know, this is the analogy. This is kind of the statement. It's a double-edged sword, because I have ER physicians telling me, "Oh, I don't know how you guys can do this bariatric surgery because all I see is complications." Well, where do you think these patients are going to go? They're going to go to the ER, right? So you don't see the 80% that do really well. Much like yourself, we don't see 80% of the patients that do go to a foreign
Other
country
countries.
and do well, because when I first met you today, I would have never guessed that you had it, you know. So congratulations to you and kudos to you.
Thank
But
you.
because I am a surgeon and I fix these problems, guess who I'm going to see that come from
Yeah.
other countries. So I would say this: bravo to you for taking care of your health and making yourself healthier. But always buyers beware,
Yes.
you know, because you just don't know. And
Well,
so it's
I
good
also
to have
s-
references.
I also say to people to do their research. I know here in the U.S. there's a board of medical doctors that you can look up. Everything's public.
Right.
And I did the same with this doctor. Like, I researched him and I looked up his credential in his country. A lot of people think that, I'm just going to go to another country because it's cheaper. I didn't go there because it was cheaper. I went there because here my insurance wasn't paying for it, and I was going to have to pay $15,000 that I really didn't have. So I was forced to choose between, some people are forced, my health, buying a house. And I always say, you got to pick your health, because if you're not living, you're not going to need a house. So, my thing is, I know that either way I was going to have this surgery, whether it was in this country or somewhere else. But I do know that a lot of people go to other countries and they don't do their research. Right. They don't do their homework. They think it's a quick fix. I do, like you, I feel like most people should do the 6 months counseling therapy, because perfect example, my husband, we had the surgery at the same time, and for him something didn't click, and I think he has a food addiction, and you can't fix that with a surgery. Right. You need to mentally prepare yourself for that.
Right. I would just have to say one last thing about that, because if you are doing it to save money, God forbid something happens wrong, you have no idea how much you're about to spend.
Exactly.
And so you're better off doing it right the first time, even if it is out of pocket, and if you trust the person, you trust the hospital, and so on and so forth. Because true story, a lady did it, I trained in San Diego, so she went down to Tijuana and got it for a good deal, but had an unbelievable complication, was in the hospital for a long time, and I can't tell you how much her bill was. $1 million, I don't know. Wow. But you try to save money, and then you end up
spending more money.
Very true.
Careful.
Well, it has been a pleasure
having
you guys on. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Seriously.
We look forward to having you guys possibly back on, to discuss more, dive more deep into this, because so many aspects of this that so many questions left unanswered and stuff. So we would love to have you guys back on some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you guys can just look into your cameras and just tell your full name and like your information, like where can maybe your address to your office, phone number, how can people reach you?
Sure. I'm Dr. Moses Shieh, and you could reach us at Surgical Healing Arts Center, and telephone number is 239-344-9786.
Do you guys have social media?
Yes, we do. Yep. Surgical Healing Arts Center, or Surgical Healing Arts. We're on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Okay, great. Yep.
And I'm Dr. Mina Saeed. I will be joining the same practice, same phone number, same address. I have an Instagram, Dr. Mina Saeed, until I join up the practice, so you can find some videos on there.
Awesome. Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was Parlor Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please send us any topics that you guys want us to talk about here on Parlor Talk. This is an open space for women by women, but like, we need men in our life, So yes, just make sure that you guys like, subscribe, follow us, help us grow. We are in a new beginning of this, process. This was created with love for our community here in Southwest Florida. We're looking for sponsors. So if you own a business and you want to be a sponsor of Parlor Talk, you can just DM us, hit us up, let us know, and we're here every week, and we will be back next week. My name is Dee Dominguez. Deuces.
And you can catch me at Enya Phoenix on all social media platforms. Remember, guys, this is Parlor Talk, the conversation behind the hair. And
the flip.
We're not going to forget
the flip. The flip. I love it. We will see you guys next week, and Nakisha will be with us next week again. So you guys will get your Shhmoney curl girl back.